let's welcome Hannah Oliver Depp, owner of Loyalty Bookstores. Hi, Anna. How are you?
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Where are you located?
Our stores are in Petworth on Upshur Street, just off Georgia Avenue, and in downtown Silver Spring on Ellsworth Drive.
Wonderful. So you have two stores.
We do.
Okay. All right. I'm glad to have you on. I mean, there are a couple stores that we know fairly well, but Loyalty
Yes.
Bookstores is a new name to me and maybe others. So, how long have you been in the book selling business?
I've been bookselling at various stores for over a decade, but our store is only 3 years old. We started out as a pop up and then opened up in Upshur Street in 2019 and in Silver Spring in 2020, about 2 weeks before the pandemic. So there's a lot of folks who still haven't found us yet because they were inside for the last 2 years we've been open. But yeah, it's been a wild ride.
It's been interesting. Bookstores have been like newspapers, and there were stories, I guess, maybe beginning about 5 years ago when folks were saying bookstores were closing. There was no future for bookstores. Everybody
Yep.
could go on and read electronic books. But after going to the National book fair last weekend and looking at my shelves and talking to people who are in book clubs and looking at talking about shelves, looking at your shelves,
Yes.
I think there's either been a resurgence or there was a misread. What do you say?
I say it was a strong misread. I'm a huge fan of electronic books and audiobooks, especially in terms of accessibility for folks who need a larger print or, can't necessarily always afford full price hardcover. And we sell those, via our website and most independent bookstores do. But I think what people really recognize even before the pandemic, but even more so, is that they want their community to feel like home and they want it to be special and unique to them, and they don't want the same thing to be on every block. They want their neighborhood to feel like their neighborhood. And a bookstore is a really, good way of doing that. And so we've been incredibly blessed with it, with neighborhood support from the jump, and it's only been growing. And we do our best to represent our neighborhood on our bookshelves and show them books where they get to see themselves and see their neighbors, because we live in an incredible city filled with all different kinds of people, and we want all of them to find themselves. And, but I think really people love a physical book. It's a beautiful object to have in your home. I think books make a home, obviously. But and I think that just because there's lots of formats to read in, that's not what's going to kill bookstores at all. And so I think our neighbors are ride or die for us, and we return it. That's why the store is called Loyalty.
Wow, that's wonderful. So, are there any particular genres of books that you sell or that you
Yeah,
carry? Uh-huh.
we have a broad range of genres, everything from graphic novels. We have children's books for all ages, a lot of fiction across various genres, whether you're looking for romance or fiction or science fiction or fantasy or literary fiction, and a wide variety of nonfiction as well. But the books on the shelves focus on authors of color, on marginalized voices that are traditionally, maybe a seasonal holiday, Black History Month, Latinx History Month display table. They're the center of our store. And so that's actually our core mission, is to make sure that those voices, whether it's an immigrant voice, a Black voice, disabled, queer, they're the center of the store. They're who's faced out on the shelves. They're on the theme table for the content of their books, not the race of the person who wrote them. But we get to focus on their books exclusively. Yeah.
So what's it like? What is coming into Loyalty Bookstores like? What's the experience? I mean, of course, you see books, but is there any? What do you do to make people to help people, peruse and
Yeah.
enjoy that whole experience?
Both of the spaces are smaller physical stores, and so there's a lot crammed in there. Everyone who visits our store is like, "Wow, you've got a lot of books in here." And we're like, "Yes, we do our best to fit as many books in there as possible because we want as many people as possible to find themselves." So there's a ton of books, a wide variety of genres, like I said, and the shelves are stacked very deeply, and then we have a lot of tables, and we try to put the kiddo books low to the ground so the kids feel comfortable just picking them off the shelf and reading them and flipping them through. We want you to bring your kids in and plop down on the carpets on the floor and have a nice read together. It is a very like, please touch me full store experience. There's a lot of wonderful, unique gift items from Washington, D.C. makers, as well as nationwide makers of color. So you can find a gift for somebody. A lot of times on the weekend, people run in and they're like, I got to get, we have a birthday party at 2. I got to get a present, so we try to be there for everybody. And then you're going to find booksellers who care deeply, deeply, deeply about the books on the shelf, who know what books are on the shelf, who care about what's being published right now, and are learning about the publishing history in general as well. We want to be a place that creates jobs for people who really care about books and have a place to come learn about the industry.
I want to talk about the grant that you received from Wells Fargo, but I also want to say, I'm one of those individuals who loves children's books, and I just buy them for some reason. I don't have children. I mean, little children. My children are grown men now, and no grandchildren. But I love buying children's books. So, what would you advise somebody like me who just and I think literacy, that's a big issue here in DC. We have a nonprofit that focuses on that. And we're trying to figure out how we can improve the literacy rates. Our show last week focused on each one of our guests talk about making sure children read. So what would you say about how a community can support that through a bookstore like Loyalty Bookstores?
Absolutely. We donate books on the regular. Sometimes folks go in and donate right through our website, or they'll come by and buy a book and hand it to us to hand out to donate. We work with an open book foundation, which brings authors and free copies of the author's books to schools around the DMV. But I think in general, I think sometimes people are so concerned about making sure that the kid is reading like exactly the right time of book, or maybe their book from when they were little. And there's a lot of barriers to reading, and interest on the part of the kid should not be one of them. So, as much as possible, if you bring your kids into the store or the library or wherever you can go to get physically in touch with books, and let them play and pick out a book. That's one of the reasons, like I said, we try to keep the bookshelves accessible for the kids, because if they need to. When I was little, I just wanted to read about dragons. Like I just wanted to read about dragons. And my mom was making a really good effort to make sure that I was reading Black history and everything. And then I got a little older and started realizing there's science fiction written by and about Black people, and that was a wonderful science fiction and fantasy by us. But I wouldn't have been so interested if she was like, no, you can't read your fantasy books, you need to read only these history books. And so I developed a love of reading because I was encouraged to explore my interests. And I think that's a really beautiful thing we can do for kids. There's so many more kinds of books now. Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of children. Like the beautiful, beautiful illustrations on children's picture books, the adventure books written with children of color at the center of them. There's a little bit of something for everyone. Encourage them, let them read their graphic novels. That is emotional literacy, which we deeply need in our culture and our country right now. Let them pick out the book. It'll go a long way.
I love that. So tell us, you got a $20,000 grant from Wells Fargo. What, how, why, when, where, what for?
Well, it was a complete surprise. We had no idea it was coming. And we got a big, one of those big foam checks, which was we have it hanging in the store because I was like, this is a crazy thing. This is a once in a lifetime moment. And it was totally wild. Good Morning America was doing a spot on Black-owned businesses for Black Business Month. And so they did for us and at a dance company in Atlanta. They did a bunch of beautiful spotlights. And we thought we were just like part of this larger package of discussing Black businesses that week. And, they asked us if we would come online for a moment. And we thought it was just going to be a quick little thing. And then they did this beautiful, entire piece about the store, which I wasn't expecting. It was so gorgeous and lovely. Wow. And that enough for me was like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. My mom and my aunties are going to see this. And then at the very end, in the last moment, they surprised us with this check, with this donation from Wells Fargo. And so, it's still a big foam check. But once we get those funds, we're hoping to expand and grow into a bookmobile. So we have a little bus lined up we're hoping to purchase, because we want to be able to. We love our neighborhood and our communities. We will be there. We'll be in Petworth and we'll be in Silver Spring. But we would love to take the bus around to book deserts in the DMV that don't have a physical bookstore location. Go to festivals, just spread the word about literacy, making sure people know there are books by and about them. And team up with our wonderful DCPL and Montgomery County and PG County library partners, and bring books right into people's backyards.
That is fantastic. I mean, how did they find you?
Well, so actually, one of the producers of the Good Morning America actually grew up in Petworth, and so she was delighted to learn there was a Black-owned bookstore that had opened up in her neighborhood. And we're very, very vocal about the publishing industry, about its strengths and its weaknesses when it comes to diverse literature. And we partner, like I said, with a lot of wonderful not-for-profits. Like an Open Book Foundation, like We Need Diverse Books. And we work hard to be vocal online on social media to make sure that we're shouting out wonderful authors and wonderful organizations from the rooftops. So I think they just were looking at different Black bookstores and liked for what we stood for.
Right.
It was incredible. We weren't expecting it at all.
No, congratulations. I mean, that's really great news. And I can't wait to see, this, I won't call it a bookmobile, but it is a bookmobile.
I hope so. Yes, I hope it will become one.
But my final question to you, though, is why a bookstore? What led you to this on this journey, in your life at this point in your life? Why a bookstore?
That's a great question. I started out thinking that I would be a professor. I was working towards my PhD, and was burnt out, but also was a little bit frustrated by the distance between academia and the community, which there's a lot of really wonderful people who work to counter that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I started working at my childhood bookstore of Politics and Prose in Washington, D.C., while working on my thesis, I believe, on my master's thesis, and completely fell in love with the bridge between, I had worked my way through school the whole way, retail jobs, service jobs, everything. And those are really valuable, incredible skills that we sort of do not value in our community. And I wanted to bridge the gap between those two sides of my brain, and found the impact I was able to have on a community as a bookseller. The feedback I was able to directly give to publishers as an independent bookseller, and saying, hey, you need to publish more chapter books with mysteries, with kids of color on them, because we sell tons of those, and there's only like 3 authors that y'all publish that are doing this, and there's a huge need for it. Getting to see the fruits of that labor and the direct effect it was having on my community. I got to teach, I got to impact books, I got to help bring wonderful books into the world and into my community, and it was like this combining of all these things. But the industry, I would walk into a room with hundreds of people and be one of the only people of color there, and so opening a bookstore. Yeah, it's incredible.
It's amazing how we're still there. Yeah, we're still in these spaces and places. So yeah,
and we're like, whoa. So I knew that, it's capitalism. It's still a top-down thing. And so I said, we're going to start a bookstore. We're going to join the ranks of the incredible history of Black bookstores and Black publishing, and started working towards that goal pretty early on in my career. And I'm just incredibly blessed to have had the mentors that I had. And, shout out to Sankofa and Mahogany and all of our other great Black bookstores in Washington, D.C. area. And it's just been a pleasure to join the ranks of those people, and to keep pushing our industry forward. And be there for our neighborhood.
I really, really wish you great success. I know when we had Pyramid Bookstore and Caravan Bookstores.
Yes.
We missed them, but we're glad that you and some others have stepped up in those places, because we still like to read. What do you call them? Book clubs are still growing. There's some that have been around for decades.
Our store has book clubs. There's bookstores, and there's book clubs in the community that buy books from us. We have events. We have a few events every week. Some are virtual, some are in person. You can find all of that on our website under our events tab. And we just invite the community to join us. We're so excited to be here.
Well, Hannah, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. You will see me. That's why I love this show. It gives me so many places to go and people to meet. And I'm hoping that others that are watching will come and visit and say they saw you on Win TV.
I hope so too.
Or go over to Good Morning America and see you get that check. That's That's a great thing, and we'll be
It
looking
was a
out
big
for
day.
that bookmobile. So thank you so much for being with us today, and we wish you the best.
Thank you, Denise. It was an honor.
All righty, have a good one.